Chapter 5. Union Spring. Union General Ulysses S. Grant gains Northern attention by capturing Confederate forts, cities, and soldiers along the Mississippi Valley. However, the victories are achieved with an unexpectedly great loss of life and limb. For the first time, the war's human cost begins to concern the Northern populace. When little Napoleon General George McClellan got the Army of the Potomac to within 6 miles of Richmond, combined with victories by Western armies and the Navy, Northern spirits and expectations of a short war soar. February 16, 1862.
Following the president's order to go on the offensive and implement General Scott's Anaconda Plan, Union forces in the Western Theater under General Ulysses S. Grant captured Fort Henry on the Tennessee River. They then surrounded Fort Donelson on the Cumberland River. Confederate General Simon Bolivar Buckner requested an armistice and terms of surrender from General Grant, who replied, "No terms except unconditional and immediate surrender can be accepted." Along with taking control of the Cumberland River, Federal troops today captured 12,000 rebel soldiers, 48 artillery pieces, and equipment.
Carter. Telegraph machines across the North immediately began tapping with this latest news. Cannons fired and church bells rang. Journalists christened the victorious Union General Unconditional Surrender Grant. President Lincoln immediately promoted him to the rank of Major General.
February 22nd, 1862.
Anguish prevails across the South as news of the evacuation of Nashville and the capture of Roanoke Island follow the surrender of Forts Henry and Donelson. Confederate diplomat in London, James Mason, who is there seeking recognition and support from Great Britain, said, "The late reverses have had an unfortunate effect upon the minds of our friends here."
After a series of successes and victories which covered our arms with glory, we have recently met with serious disasters. Although the contest is not ended and the tide, for the moment, is against us, the final result in our favor is not doubtful. It was perhaps in the ordination of Providence that we would be taught the value of our liberties by the price which we pay for them.
April 7th, 1862.
At Pittsburgh Landing, Tennessee, near Shiloh Church, a name that ironically means place of peace, bloodshed has reached a new high where 2 days of fighting have left 24,000 men on both sides dead, dying, or wounded. This death toll is greater than the totals of all battles to date. Union General William Tecumseh Sherman described the aftermath as piles of dead soldiers' mangled bodies without heads and legs. The scenes on this field would cure anybody of war.
April 16th, 1862.
President Davis signed into law the first conscription law in American history, declaring all able-bodied white males between 18 and 35 liable to service for 3 years. The law immediately met with opposition from governors who see a national draft as a contradiction to the reasons states seceded. One North Carolina soldier said, "When we hear men comparing the despotism of the Confederacy with that of the Lincoln government, something must be wrong."
April 25th, 1862.
Today, the jewel of the Confederacy, the city of New Orleans, surrendered to Union naval forces commanded by Admiral David G. Farragut. In addition to being the South's largest city, New Orleans is home to industry that produces ironclads, munitions, and uniforms. Perhaps most importantly, the city controls access to the Mississippi River from the Gulf of Mexico. Combined with advances down the river from the north, the Union is getting closer to the goal of the Anaconda Plan.
May 4th, 1862.
Carter. Union forces are also gaining ground in the Eastern Theater. We have just learned that Confederate forces have evacuated Yorktown, Virginia. General Joseph E. Johnston moved his forces back to Richmond after facing the Union in a standstill since April 5th. Major General George B. McClellan wired Secretary of War Edwin M. Stanton that he was on the move. Quote, "The enemy abandoned Yorktown last night, and it is now in our possession. I have thrown all my cavalry in pursuit of the enemy. I shall push the enemy to the wall." End quote. In the wake of these developments, public opinion in the North is riding high. The New York Tribune writes, quote, "The cause of the Union now marches on in every section of the country. Every blow tells fearfully against the rebellion. The rebels are panic-stricken or despondent. It now requires no very far-reaching prophet to predict the end of the struggle," end quote.
The value of the Confederate dollar has fallen to a new low. It now takes nearly 3 Confederate dollars to buy what $1 bought at the beginning of last year.
June 21st, 1862.
The Union Army and Navy in the Western Theater now control most of the Mississippi River Valley, from the north down to Memphis, and from the Gulf of Mexico to New Orleans. Today, Union forces departed from Baton Rouge in vessels escorted by gunboats under Admiral Farragut, who declared, "The objective is Vicksburg, the Gibraltar of the Confederacy."
Vicksburg is the nailhead that holds the South's two halves together.
See what a lot of land these fellows hold, of which Vicksburg is the key. War can never be brought to a close until that key is in our pocket. We can take all the northern ports of the Confederacy, and they can defy us from Vicksburg. As valuable as New Orleans will be to us, Vicksburg will be more so.